Hey everybody, this is Tom Salemi of Device Talks. Welcome back to the Device Talks weekly podcast. Jam-packed episode for you as always. We're going to open up with Newmarker's Newsmakers. Chris Newmarker and I will unpack an unbelievably busy news week in MedTech. Then we'll hear our FOMO episode, our FOMO interview between Jim Hammerand, the managing editor of Medical Design and Outsourcing, and Ken Charhut, the CEO of Foldax. They connected at Device Talks West. And then finally, Chris Newmarker talks with Dr. Alan Cheng. He's the Chief Medical Officer at Medtronic's Cardiac Rhythm Management business. And they'll talk about Linq and a whole bunch of other great technologies and explore where this space is going. This entire episode is sponsored by our very great friends at Resonetics. Managing Editor Kayleen Brown will bring them into the episode and share with you a great conversation. So that's a lot going on. Happy to have you here at Device Talks Weekly. We do have our final Device Talks Tuesdays on January 9th. Please go to devicetalks.com to register. All right, let's get this podcast started. All right, you ready for this?
Ready.
Newmarker, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Tom. Doing well. Like, man, it's we're talking on Thursday morning, and we got our first really good freeze like early. Like, it's,
okay, yeah,
it was a balmy -9 today at the bus stop. Kids get on the bus fast when it's -9.
We got our little snowstorm here. We got, well, not a snowstorm. We got like an inch and a half, but it was the sloppy, frozen stuff.
Gee. I remember we were saying Boston was going to get a nor'easter, but, I remember that's always like living on the East Coast.
It's always funny. Like on Monday morning, it was like 6 to 8. And then by like Monday, 2 o'clock, it was like, well, maybe 1 to 2.
Right.
All right. Well, fine. So the later one was more accurate. So yes, winter is here, Chris Newmarker.
Yes, here it is. Exactly. Yeah. So do you have holiday lights up?
No, I don't do that. We have the Christmas tree up because the boy was home for Thanksgiving. So we get the Christmas tree and I put the lights on it, brought out the decorations, and those boxes of decorations have been right next to the tree since the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So the Celebrities are, when you don't have little kids, it's just less of a priority. Like you're like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Like,
I know we were day after Thanksgiving, we were like drive up to the Christmas tree farm, cut down the tree.
No, we don't do that anymore.
You're like, I don't have little kids around to be like, oh, you cut down the tree. You're just like,
the last time I cut down a tree, I was like doing the holding it in the middle thing, and people look at it, and then we bring it home, or maybe I just got into the car and I look, and there was a poison ivy vine that was like all up the middle of it.
Oh, that's delightful.
Holding the whole time. And I'm very allergic to poison ivy. So,
oh no.
I was able to kind of just hold my hand up like this and scrubbed it off, and it wasn't a big deal. But I think that was the last time we cut down a tree. That wasn't entirely why, but it was like, you know what? There's easier ways. People.
You didn't have a Freddy Krueger hand.
I did not have a Freddy Krueger hand.
That's good. That's good.
Oh yes, delightful. So, Chris Newmarker, we've had quite a week.
Yeah, it's been quite a week.
Insane. And we've said this recently on this podcast, quite a week, but this is quite a week. Like this is quite a week.
My goodness. I mean, it's like there's just no slowing down as, the holidays approach. It's like we're getting like a lot of big announcement out of medtech companies. I mean, there's just a lot of business and stuff to do before 2025 wraps up for the industry. I mean, I don't know. What do you think's up with that? Because I mean, generally, in past years, I kind of, for some reason, I remember December's being a little more sleepy. But
it's still early. I mean, it's
still early. That's true.
No,
got to get the business done.
Yeah. So I think I don't know what the next 3 weeks are going to hold, but let's get into this news because there's a lot of good stuff. So let's roll into number 5.
Newmarker's Newsmakers.
Newmarker's Newsmakers.
Exactly, and number 5 on the list. This actually this comes from our latest MedTech Markets Intelligence report that's available for sale on MassDevice. It's already this report was like pointing out like its main forecast in there is that for the overall market is that it's going to double in size by the end of the decade. Like it's already worth billions of dollars. the surgical robotics market is going to double in size, and I mean, which just goes along with, I mean, just everything we're seeing with surgical robotics. I mean, it's just such an exciting, dynamic space right now.
So, are those in dollars invested, or in revenues generated, or the whole kit and caboodle?
Whole kit and caboodle, like the value of the entire market. Yeah. And also Gail Grimes, the veteran analyst who made this nearly 100-page report. I mean, if you go and purchase that, and download it, I mean, there's forecasts of like inside the U.S., outside the U.S., forecasts of how Intuitive's going to do, and other major players that are in the space. So I mean, it's just a very extensive report on like all the different ways that surgical robotics is being used or could be used. So it's just, if somebody just really wants to have just a really like high quality analysis report on the market, this is the way to go.
Well, we'll have to have Gail on an upcoming episode to talk about number 2 on the news. I don't want to spoil it, but I think people can guess what it is, but and what the impact of that might be. So, all right. So where can folks find the report again, Chris?
People could just go to the top of MassDevice, in the top bar at the right, you'll see reports. Click on reports, and you can make your way over to the robotic surgery report and download it. It's also available. The full URL is massdevice/products/robotic-surgery.
Yes. All right. Well, it's another great service provided to the medtech industry by the fine folks at MassDevice.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited about this. I mean, it's just like one more way we're really trying to inform people, across the industry, and hopefully, promote some more innovation.
I was thinking, Chris, I've been watching the Ken Burns series. Do you think when he does, or his descendant does a medtech series, they'll quote us? You think they'll have someone reading something we said in a podcast, or maybe they'll just play this audio and we'll be part of a future documentary done by Ken Burns number 7. What do you think?
And then Tom and Chris decided to start a podcast.
To very little fanfare.
It's like
number 4.
Number 4. People are like, "What am I doing listening to this?" Like,
they're having fun.
We're going to inform you. Just hold on. Like, all right, number 4 on the list, we've got the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. They provided a major reimbursement update for cardiac ablation technologies. They're including them, these AFib treating procedures now on their list of procedures covered at ambulatory surgery centers, which are just like this really fast growing area of healthcare. So I mean, this just really seems to be especially good news for any of the companies that that are really competing right now with these next gen pulse field ablation technologies like Boston Scientific, Medtronic, Johnson and Johnson, and frankly, like, good news for people who need less invasive ways to treat AFib.
Absolutely. No, we've talked about ASCs a lot. We had Scott Fraser at Device Talks Boston, and we've had him on the podcast earlier. Clearly, this is the future for a lot of medical procedures. Obviously, maybe not the most involved ones, but if you can go to a place with lots of parking, get in and out real quick, get your ticker fixed, why wouldn't you do that? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of like heading into a big giant hospital complex and whatnot, and like everything involved with that. So, yeah, just very cool.
Do you think there's a code for getting your ticker fixed? Do you think if I plug that in, it would we get reimbursed?
Probably. I mean, let's each call our health insurer after this and just ask them what the code is. My gosh, Tom, it's been a week. So number 3 on the list. I mean, this is something.
Yeah, this one I'm kicking myself about.
Yeah, we were on the show just the other week, with the news that Eric Todd had headed out of Stryker. We were like, he's gonna, he ran Stryker's robotic surgery program. And we were like,
I'm such an idiot. I mean, this would have been one to throw just to sound smart, like, woo, maybe he'll, but
maybe he'll do this. Like,
it didn't even occur to me, like,
right? I mean, if it doesn't happen, if it does happen, you look, exactly. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Low
mean,
hanging fruit, and we didn't grab it.
here he is. He's like been announced as a CEO of Swan EndoSurgical, which is the surgical robotics play that Olympus is doing in partnership with Revival Healthcare Capital. So I mean, they've really brought in some like top talent to run this new venture.
I've never. I mean, this is going to sound crazy, Chris, but Olympus is getting pretty sexy, pretty hot. I mean, they're coming out with a lot of big news, a lot of great stuff. It hasn't been something we've seen. And they've been working in this direction for a while, bringing on Bob White and now bringing on Eric Todd and Swan EndoSurgical. I mean, this is an exciting company.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they did have the reorg recently, but even that just seems like, just
everybody is
just gotta find, exactly, like get the company set up for what's coming in the future, but I mean, just all of these like milestones and strategic moves and just exciting to see to see Olympus, like they're doing this venture, doing this play to get much more involved in surgical robotics and then bring on the person who's been running it over at Stryker, who should have some like really good knowledge of what surgeons actually want and need. That gets attention.
Absolutely. And there's so much news that we're actually having two number threes because they're both related to Stryker, and this is big news as well.
Yeah, this is really big news over at Stryker, which is that Spencer Stiles has now been promoted to president and COO of the company. Which, I mean, generally, I mean, I think it's fair to say that this is often an indication of like who's being groomed to be the CEO. This is a way the companies kind of like give an indication to the outside world, like in the future, this is somebody who could be CEO of the company. And so I mean, Spencer Stiles is now like in the president and COO spot.
Yep. No, and he and Andy Pierce, Spencer Stiles is in charge of the ortho Mako sort of side. Andy Pierce is in charge of the neurovascular and kind of the non-ortho side. They both were heads of equal divisions. So I don't know if there was any sort of trial of sorts, but it was clear that one of those two, I think, would have been in line for succession, and I think this just makes it, like you said, makes it clear. That being said, Kevin Lobo's 59, a few years older than I am, so still a very young man.
Yeah,
I'm not expecting that he may go anywhere, but I'm guessing this is something that investors and analysts like to see. Like, you need to pick your successor and have that succession plan clear and in place. And who knows? Maybe it'll come sooner than we thought. But interesting pairing though with the Eric Todd news and then this elevation. And I don't know. I actually didn't. This happened just a few minutes ago. So is he keeping his titles as he's still leading orthopedic and
no, he's he's not. Like, so the company elevated Dylan Crotty now to lead orthopedics over there. So I mean, this is really Stiles like taking on like this this like overall, I mean, really like the number 2 person.
Yeah, and Stiles succeeds by a couple of years Timothy Scannell, who retired in 2023. So.
Yeah, they had like a period really where there wasn't any COO of the company. So
big changes at Stryker.
Yeah.
And again, this could have been any other week. This could be number 1.
Yeah, totally.
But
number
it's 3,
not.
it's not, because number 2 is huge. And number 1 is huge.
Yeah, I mean number 2 on the list. I mean, we finally have FDA approval of Medtronic's Hugo for an indication. The first one out the gate is urological. So there we go. Congratulations, Medtronic.
Yeah, no. Sean got that out very quickly yesterday. I posted just my wow post. Congratulations on LinkedIn last night. But just thinking about it, I mean, it just goes to show that medtech is hard, and this has been a project that's been going on for a decade, and we've talked with many great folks at Medtronic about the potential of it, about we had talked with Rajiv Kamel, we've talked with others over there about the program, and waiting for the approval and to have it finally come forth. I can't imagine the joy that must come with that after working on something for so long.
See something completed like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
To see something completed and to see it get out, and to now it's go time. You and I, we've been talking about this in a theoretical sense, kind of like, spring training. Who's going to be where? We've got our predicted standings for our respective sport, but now we get to watch the season. This is opening day. We've got a major med tech with a really massive surgical business that now has a robot, and let the games begin. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, the same times. Yeah, I mean, Intuitive. I mean, decades now in that space. They've been the dominant company. A lot of like soft tissue surgical robotics inside hospitals in the U.S. I mean, Intuitive's really been the company. I mean, I think that's the big open question. Like, I mean, Medtronic is a giant company, as you said. They've got a giant surgical business. Can they, can they compete against Intuitive in this space? And we'll watch, and we'll see how it goes. But you're right. It's like let the season begin.
Yep. All right. Well, congratulations to everyone at Medtronic for that. They're, of course, headquarters for the surgical robot is in Boston. So
proud you just had to mention that, right?
we enjoyed a visit over there a couple of years ago at Device Talks Boston. Got to play with Hugo. And it was very cool. So it's nice to have the good news here. So
see that circle around and see it approved. I mean, just a lot of work to get a system like that approved. So
absolutely. All right,
and
huge number one as well.
I know this. I mean, Medtronic Hugo would have.
You could have gone 1, 2. Either one, I think, could have been one. Like, I don't think he's a clear 1 or 2 here. It was,
I know there really isn't. I mean, this is. I mean, number one on the list. This was. A nice little good scoop that we had. That senior editor Sean Hooley ran out yesterday that Johnson MedTech, they're going to be there's like another big organizational restructuring that is kicking off over there, where they're going to be shifting to having this business unit led structure. They're actually kicking this off on January 1st. So they're, kind of moving away from this model of having, people running different regions of the world. And they're really having it more like the businesses inside J&J MedTech do that.
Mm-hmm.
Except for China. You don't want to mess with China, I guess. But yeah.
Yep. No, I mean, it follows. I think we've seen similar reorgs at other companies. You mentioned Olympus earlier. I'm not sure if it's exactly this way, but this sounds like a Stryker setup. This Smith and Nephew went through something I was reminded a couple of years ago, and it helped a lot. And it makes sense. And we had Tim Schmidt at Device Talks West after the Synthes, the Pew Synthes spin out.
Right. I mean, they're spinning out the Pew Synthes, and they even in the the internal message at J&J that we acquired, they were even mentioning that spinoff, that this was kind of like a good time to do something like this as they kind of simplify the organization.
I mean, Sean had reached out to J&J, and a spokesperson said Johnson MedTech is dedicated to improving the lives of millions of people around the world. To strengthen that commitment, we have updated our organizational structure to create a simpler, faster, and more competitive organization that can better serve patients and customers. We are moving businesses from a regional model to a business unit-led structure. This will increase specialty focus, streamline decision-making, and deliver better clinical and commercial outcomes for the people and healthcare providers we serve. So
and they've had some exciting stuff going on with cardiology as well. Actually, just people should keep an eye out on MassDevice. Just in 2 weeks, we're going to have a gated, free special report about the cardiology devices market. And I ranked the top 5 companies, and I mean, all 5 of them, including J&J. I mean, cardiology is just really, all these cardiology devices are really kind of like the growth drivers right now. So, I mean, J&J wants to, really likes the growth in cardiology, wants to focus on that. And then, the surgical business, I mean, they've got Atava under development. So, I mean, Medtronic's out there with Hugo, and, J&J wants to get, follow up and get Atava out there as well. So we're going to have big companies competing against Intuitive.
Yep. Newmarker, great list. There's much more, right, at MassDevice. Folks need to check that on the hour, I think.
Yeah, for all things MedTech, go to MassDevice.com, and really, I encourage you, sign up for our daily e-newsletter. I mean, that's a great way to get a nice, nice email in your inbox with a really up to date, top 5, MedTech stories of the day, and frankly, it's the most timely news you're gonna get. I always love a lot of the other outfits that put out those types of emails. I like reading the stuff we covered about I see it in the next day in their newsletter.
Now, Chris Newmarker.
Sorry, I should got to talk a little smack. Got to talk.
No, smack is good. Smack is good. All right, man. Good job.
All right, man. Take care, buddy.
All right, Chris Newmarker, thanks so much for the Newsmakers. Now I'd like to hand the microphone over to our Device Talks managing editor, Kayleen Brown. She's visiting with our sponsor, Resonetics.
Eric Veit, VP of Business Development for Nitinol at Resonetics. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kayleen. I appreciate being here. Thanks for having us.
So I've had the pleasure of sitting down with several members of Resonetics, but if you don't mind, Eric, can you remind us how Resonetics supports medical device companies and how you work with Nitinol and components?
Resonetics is really known as experts in the micro manufacturing area. We support interventional, advanced surgery, advanced diagnostics, and bioelectronics. And Nitinol fits into that in a lot of areas, mostly in the interventional and advanced surgery side, and looking toward the future a little bit on the advanced diagnostics and bioelectronics side of things.
Great. Can you take us through a focus on how Resonetics works with Nitinol?
We're a full service provider in Nitinol. We're totally integrated. We make our own melt, and we take that all the way through. We call it melt to market. So from the melt side all the way to the market, as in the market being advanced components, both delivery components and implantable components like heart valves or electrophysiology components.
So that was a really good overview. Can you help us understand maybe how you work directly with medical device companies?
We work with everybody from startups through multinational large corporations, and we work initially with the R&D departments and prototyping. We have what we call the Lightspeed Lab, which is our rapid prototyping group. They turn quotes around in a day, turn parts around in a week to 2 weeks, and that really gives us a leg up to work with these R&D departments, prototype parts, and get those moving toward production. The goal eventually is to produce those parts in a high volume environment, and so we are set up to do that by making our own equipment, and we have a whole team that works on transferring projects into production.
All right, we'll take a quick break from this conversation with our sponsor, Resonetics, to bring in our FOMO. But first, if you need more information about Resonetics, go to its website, Resonetics.com. That's RESONETICS.com. Now, let's hear this conversation between Jim Hammerand, he's managing editor of our Medical Design and Outsourcing magazine, and Ken Charhut, the CEO of Foldax.
Hello, I'm Jim Hammerand, managing editor of Medical Design and Outsourcing. We're at Device Talks West in Santa Clara, California, recording some FOMO clips for Device Talks podcast. And right now I have the pleasure of speaking with Foldax CEO Ken Charhut. Ken, thank you so much for joining us today.
So Jim, thanks for inviting me here, and happy to share what we're doing at Foldax, and hopefully your audience will gain something from it.
Oh, of course, it's so exciting. You've got so much going on the valve and the delivery and the automation, the manufacturing automation. So let's start at a high level. What drew you to structural heart?
So I was in structural heart in my years at Baxter for whatever, and then I actually jumped out into startups for about 20 years while the structural heart area kind of grew more. And then I think I saw a convergence opportunity, which brought me back in. It obviously is something that, it was very important to me in my years at Baxter, and I was just looking at a way to kind of sneak back into it.
What are your views on the main or the principal challenges right now facing the structural heart market?
Yeah, well, I think the whole structural heart market really came about because of the delivery of the technology, right? And to be able to take it out of the operating room, put it into the cath lab, and reduce the morbidity of the process. And so that really was a long kind of arm that developed, became possible. Nitinol as a material really, which led that to a thing, although, cobalt chromium is probably the leading implant that's left in there. But nonetheless, this compressible technology is really what allowed that delivery system to happen. And so all of a sudden, possibilities for all the valves in the heart and structural heart became a way to do it. And a lot of what was done in the operating can now be done in there. It's procedural, it's morbidity. It's not really what's left behind, per se, in most cases. And so I always, because I was selling into the surgery and a lot of the valves there, saw kind of the need for what's left behind for the patients that's still there. And that while solving how it gets there, we didn't solve that. So, the ability to bring those two together and solve two problems at once is, what excited me to get back in it.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about those technical advances that are solving this problem.
So on the, clearly it's that compressible material, nitinol or whatever, on the delivery side, which allowed you to deliver it, through the arteries instead of opening up the chest to get there.
Right, crimp it down in the catheter, get in that self-expansive
get it
side.
in, and then all the and all the materials required to deliver it, position it, get it in there. That was a long thing. But on the other side, you were still faced with what were you going to leave behind. You either had to leave tissue behind, because you couldn't really use the alternative, which was surgical, which is pyrolytic carbon mechanical valves, which are non-compressible. And so, that left them out. So your only alternative at the time was tissue. But tissue has a durability problem. And so if you look at the progression of the entire structural heart field, it started with very elderly, very sick people, and has come down. And still, as you get to this 70, 65 age, what's appropriate, and you begin hearing things like valve and valve, using two in your life, maybe a surgical, then something, but 2 operations, right? And it's almost not solving that morbidity problem because you're asking the patient to do something twice. So move over to material side. I take that, nitinol, but now move over to the leaflet side. And, Foldax has been working on, a polymeric solution. So not pyrolytic carbon, not tissue, but polymeric, where you can get the best of both. You can get the lifestyle that you get with the tissue valve, no anticoagulation or low anticoagulation, and you can get the longevity, the durability that you get with the pyrolytic carbon. So those 70, 68, 60, 50, can take the benefit of both of those.
Yeah.
Right.
So how does an innovation like that then spread across the industry in the near term?
So in the near term, it's no one's done it before, right? And I guess the third addition that we have to this is we're using robots to manufacture instead of lots and lots of highly skilled people.
Right.
Like the
one day deploying pods to manufacture these at scale.
So we're taking the whole manufacturing process, changing it. We're introducing a new material for a long time, and there's no predicate. There's no one else has done it. So it's us persevering, moving forward. So what's in the near term? Us.
Yeah. And what kind of innovation then does that set off at your competitors in the near term now that you've got that?
Well, so it's 40 years of trying for polymer. So we feel, somewhat lucky. Obviously, there's a lot of really, really smart people that went into that to have something that's progressed into the clinic. We have, people with our implanted device for over 6 years. Now we have commercial approval outside of the U.S. for the device. So we're really moving the experience ahead for the thing. And while we see lots and lots of innovation on that delivery side and what can happen on the delivery, where it can go on another polymer company, not a lot. It's a tough road to hoe. And so I think we're just building a big advantage. And as we succeed and people see you can succeed, I would expect a lot more. You hear a lot of people talking about it, but actually doing it, I think we're way out in front in terms of that.
Sounds like you've solved this problem. Are there other big problems out there that you would love to be able to solve, or that you're hoping somebody else out there can solve in structural heart?
Well, I think, I don't know that we've totally solved that. So, maybe, as anything progresses, someone will be smarter than us, will take the field forward. But what we'll do is we'll transform the entire platform of how you think about a heart valve, how you think about making it, right? So there's people, working on AI. So we do most of our stuff right off the computer into making a valve, right? But what size valve for that patient? How do you do that? So through imaging, through AI, there's a whole, group of technology and technologists that are trying to address that problem. If you can give me the exact specifications, right, I can take it in. I can start making the valves for individual patients for individual size, so we don't just put stuff on the shelf, but we're actually, we're making your valve
Tailor-made. Yeah.
Tailor-made for you.
Exactly. Well, paint me a picture then. In 5-10 years, what does the structural heart market look like?
Well, I hope with the delivery system advances in 5 to 10 years that you're able to deliver to all the major valves, right? So the aortic, tricuspid, the mitral valve, and in a truly less invasive manner. Some of the technology right now attacking some of the other valves has a lot of room for improvement in terms of how they squash down, how small they are to get in there. And so I'd hope that that problem gets solved. And there's a company called Myris that's out there right now, and they're using a new unique metal, and it's allowing them to configure the stent structure in a different way such that they can really lower the profile of the implant. So 5 years from now, if they're successful, you may not be having expandable sheaths, which they have right now, which are, something that's 16 French, but actually is going to 24 French. Maybe you really deliver just 16 French, and get to the end. If you can get it to like 12 French, it's a huge morbidity reduction for patients. And it truly becomes almost a walk in, walk out, kind of procedure. And if you're walking out with something polymeric, that's going to last for a long time.
You're not going back.
What would that world look like? And it's probably not that far away with all the smart people looking at it.
Well, that's so exciting. Such a great industry being in medtech, isn't it?
It really is. It is, because at the end of the day, it's somebody's life that you're changing, that the experience that you're making. It's a doctor or more doctors who are capable of providing care to patients, and in our case, not asking for more money to do it. So addressing the healthcare costs. So, it's just a very positive industry to be in, to work in, but, highly challenging.
Well, thank you for the work that you do in this industry to advance patient care. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your insights with us here today.
Oh, I appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to share them.
All right, Foldax is a really fascinating company. Thank you, Ken Charhut, for joining us on FOMO. Great job by Jim Hammerand. And now it's time for our keynote conversation. Chris Newmarker, editor-in-chief of MassDevice, talked with Alan Cheng. Dr. Alan Cheng, he's the chief medical officer of Medtronic's cardiac rhythm management business. Let's listen.
Hi there, this is Chris Newmarker. I'm editor-in-chief of MassDevice and Medical Design Outsourcing and co-host of the Device Talks weekly podcast. We're increasingly living in a world where consumer tech devices can provide a constant stream of health data. For example, my Fitbit isn't anything special versus 4, but it's telling me right now that I have a heart rate of 91. I mean, that's not bad for, like resting, I guess, on, midday on, on a Monday. But, there could be important differences, though, between what consumer devices can do and the capabilities of medical grade cardiac monitors made by companies such as medtech giant Medtronic. To discuss, I'm happy to have on Dr. Alan Cheng. Dr. Cheng is a practicing electrophysiologist who is a chief medical officer of Medtronic's cardiac rhythm management business. Dr. Chen, welcome to Device Talks Weekly.
Hey, Chris, great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
That's fantastic. Well, I guess just to start out, I'd like just to ask you, like, what's your story? I mean, how did you get into Medtronic, like MedTech and Medtronic?
Yeah, in short, serendipitously, to be honest with you. I've been with Medtronic now just a little over 9 years now, and to your point, prior to that, I was on faculty at Johns Hopkins as a practicing cardiac electrophysiologist and associate professor of medicine there. Did the research, saw the patients, taught at the med school kind of thing. And one thing happened to another. They gave me an opportunity to expand the work I was doing and the impact I was having. And I took the leap and joined. And I guess 9 years into it, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So kind of like working on the innovations at Johns Hopkins, of course, like at one of the top health providers in the world. And then, you kind of like saw this opportunity to get more involved in like the technology that you were working at there and to help further the innovation. So that's fantastic. And I mean, being at Medtronic, so as I said, like people are kind of used to like what their Apple Watches or their Fitbits could do or whatnot. But I mean, maybe give people like a quick overview. I mean, what are like these, medical grade, cardiac monitor technologies that a company such as Medtronic offers, including like there's the Linq insertable cardiac monitors.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, maybe just to take a step back to your point. I mean, these wearable devices that provide some type of health-based information, you can see this. It's exploding everywhere. It's becoming the big trend that people are more accustomed to. Quite honestly, it's sort of akin to back in the very, very old days, probably before your and my time. Scales came into being, right, where people were weigh themselves at home as opposed to having to go to clinic and doing that. This is a very similar sort of modern day version of a scale where people are getting more aware of their own health. And it's a great thing. I think the challenge is very often when you get health information from these type of consumer-based platforms, there is an expectation that it's necessary for what ails you. And what we've come to appreciate is that some of these monitoring devices, especially when you're managing medical conditions or diagnoses, such as abnormal arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation or things of that like, you really need medical grade technology to provide that sensitivity and the specificity, if you will, of the information you're gathering from your bodies to make really important decisions about your health and what you need to do and what you shouldn't do.
I mean, give me an example. What is something that a medical grade wearable or medical grade heart tracker could catch that an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or whatnot wouldn't be able to catch?
Yeah. So, as an example, our Linq devices are these implantable cardiac monitors that we introduced in the late '90s, early 2000 range. And these devices were designed to measure heart rhythms and to track heart rhythms and to detect any abnormal heart rhythms that could be occurring. Now, these other watches and these ring platforms, they do all the same things, or at least they try to do all the same things, but they're not tuned to the sensitivity of being able to pick up everything. And if I can give you just one example, Chris, we had a very a sub-analysis of a larger study that we had done that we presented on about a year or so ago, showing that people who had an Apple Watch on, as well as these implantable Linq devices, the Apple Watch only picked up about 40% of the episodes that the Linq device captured.
Wow.
And that was probably due to variations in the way they're being used. Sometimes they have to take it off to shower, or they have to take it off to recharge the device, things like that. But even in the context of someone wearing the watch while they had this Linq device in place, the watch only captured about 26% of the events that the Linq device captured. And it really
Wow.
speaks to the notion about how sensitive certain platforms are, consumer grade devices, medical grade devices. And so what I tell folks is, look, if you've got a medical condition that you're really managing, it's really important that you use medical grade devices so that you can get the assurance that if there is something to pick up, the device will pick it up.
Are you seeing anything worrying out there with health providers? Saying, I don't know if my patients need something like a Linq monitor or whatnot. Maybe I think their watches are just fine, or tracking what they have or whatnot. I mean, is there any potential challenge there we need to work through, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. I haven't seen anything yet from the healthcare provider perspective, but from the patient side, I think that's where uh, some hesitancy or some scrutiny should be exercised, because if folks buy this consumer grade monitor and they expect that they're going to be able to get the same performance as a medical grade device, then they might put all their eggs in that basket and say, if there's no news that I've got an arrhythmia, then that's good news. And that might not necessarily be the right conclusion, because these devices are just tuned differently to be able to pick up some things versus others.
So so it sounds like maybe there needs to be more of a message like, hey, if you're occasionally experiencing like a chest pain, a slight chest pain, you shouldn't be like, well, my watch doesn't, show me having an arrhythmia. I'm fine. I'm gonna keep on, going here. Like you need to get in and get things checked out more, because these things aren't medical grade.
Yeah, I think the standing recommendation of talk to your doctor or your clinician still holds, despite you may be having some information that you've collected on your own from these consumer grade devices that you've purchased.
Now, what are the consumer devices good for? I mean, because in my head, I'm kind of thinking like, these could, enable more adoption of medical grade wearables, perhaps, because maybe they're going to spot things that people otherwise wouldn't spot, and then they can work with their doctor to get stuff monitored even more fully. I mean, could these potentially be useful in like spotting AFib cases or whatever that we might not know about?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's two things that the consumer grade devices are great for. One is just breadth of exposure, right? I mean, you are not going to get the same number of people having a Linq as you would, say, with an Apple Watch or a Ring, or any of these other platforms that people can more readily get access to, because the access point is a lower barrier. The other piece of this, I think, in many regards, with these consumer grade devices, is they collect other information as well, right? It's not just about heart rhythms, for example. It's about sleep cycles. It's about other sort of things that might be indicative of your overall health status. And so anytime you do anything to generate more awareness or accountability of someone's health, it's a good thing. Again, going back to our example of the weight scale that you can put at home, people who have scales have been shown to lose weight. There's nothing that the scale is necessarily doing per se to help you lose weight, but that awareness and that reminding of it really goes a long way with regard to promoting preventive health and overall health benefits.
Yeah, I know. I mean, totally. I'd say with my Fitbit, just knowing how many steps I'm taking a day
Right.
is useful. It's information I wouldn't have had before. Like, have I moved around a lot today? Have I not? And I could see too what you're saying about sleep tracking. I mean, kind of that relationship we see between potential heart problems and whatnot, and COPD and sleep problems. Like being able to catch that could be super useful as well. And
Yeah.
and and just even like if these devices go off sometimes and tell people that you're having an AFib episode or whatnot. I still remember, was it years ago, there was that Minneapolis Miracle where the ball was caught in that playoff game, and I remember there was like a AFib alerts going off or something around the Twin Cities.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
It's like half the city's heart stopped just at the same time. Briefly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so So it seems like basically like don't rely on these if you really need to know like, how your heart health is. So then like going to like, okay, you need to get, medical grade wearables. I mean, what's the kind of the breadth of what's available now? Because it seems like we've moved a far way off from technologically from like sending people home with like a Holter monitor on them, with all these, ECG pads. What's available at this point?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think much of it is still focused on measuring heart rhythms, if you will, and measuring electrocardiograms or the electrical signatures that the heart emits, just to give us a sense of what heart rhythms people are experiencing, how slow or how fast heart rhythms are. But the next phase in this that we've gravitated toward is really looking at ways in which artificial intelligence can help curate this information, but will also help us understand how best to interpret some of this information.
Wow.
Now, one of the consequences of having some of these devices, and this is probably true across the board with these implantable medical grade devices, is that they're very sensitive in picking up signals. And by definition, when you're super sensitive in picking up signals, sometimes you might be picking up false signals, if you will, and you might get information that might not even be applicable or useful. And so what we've done with our Linq platform is apply a good amount of artificial intelligence or AI-based algorithms to help reduce these false alerts to the point where clinicians can now really just focus on what really matters, those real signals, and then maintaining that level of sensitivity. And so this last iteration of these AI algorithms that we've incorporated have actually reduced the amount of false alerts by more than 90%. And that has saved a tremendous amount of time to these clinicians in managing more and more patients that get online and require this type of help.
I'm going to cut in here really quickly to bring you the conclusion of my conversation with this episode's sponsor, Eric Veit, VP of Business Development for Nitinol at Resonetics. So I understand how Resonetics is working with Nitinol, but how is Resonetics different compared to other component suppliers?
I think what's different is that we're really working to be a world-class partner. We want to partner with companies to be able to provide raw material, component processing, high volume manufacturing, soup to nuts. We do it, we cover it, we want to work with them. And we do that through a backbone of science. So we have a backbone, which we call our advanced technology group, and they're technical experts down to the material science level, down to the microstructure of the nitinol and how that's impacted by processing it, how to optimize it, how to get the best out of your performance of your parts. And that's what we offer, and that's what we enjoy doing every day.
Perfect. Let's look to the future. So how do you see nitinol being used in the future in terms of component applications?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually wrote a post recently called Nitinol Through the Decades on LinkedIn, and gives you a kind of decade by decade breakdown of some of the parts that are made. And looking in the future, there's right now you can't really 3D print nitinol. There's experimentation that you can 3D print it, but I think for the future, those things will get worked out, and for orthopedic applications, you'll be able to use it. There's passive and active microelectronic implantables. You have heart failure is definitely an area that's up and coming, and the use of devices there. And then if you combine sensors with batteries, like the Synchron neurological implants that will have sensors and batteries implanted, be able to both monitor brain function and also change it. I think those are applications of the future. And then from an AI perspective, actually in the process, not the component side, but that would be things like using artificial intelligence to data, for example, on heat treatment. We've already started doing this where we're incorporating our knowledge of heat treatment and creating AI models where the number of steps, the outputs that you want, the AF temperature, the final, that the number of the heat treatment temperatures, all that's put into the model, and it's kind of creating a smart engineer for anybody. It makes the average engineer into a technical fellow. Of course, it's just like ChatGPT. You got to check it, but it gets you halfway there.
That's a lot to look forward to in the future. And I think I'm going to have to 100% put that LinkedIn post link here in the show notes, because I'm sure my audience would be very interested to learn about Nitinol through the decades. So for our audience, please take a look right there. Eric, VP of Business Development for Nitinol at Resonetics, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, giving me a little update on Nitinol and what we can expect from it to come. So thank you again.
Thank you, Kayleen. I appreciate the time.
Huge thanks to Resonetics for sponsoring this episode of Abbott Talks. We really can't tell these important stories without your support, so thank you. And to our audience, to learn how you can work with Resonetics and learn more about Nitinol, please visit their website, www.resonetics.com, RESONETICS.com. Thanks again.
So it's kind of like you're seeing the AI. So what I'm hearing you saying is that the AI is kind of like helping to point out patterns in the data that the physicians just wouldn't otherwise have time to look at, because I mean it's great. You have time to talk to me right now, and a lot of physicians are incredibly busy people. I find so. Having time to go through like data and pinpoint things, but the AI can help them out.
Yeah, and you could just imagine the amount of data that people are talking about. I don't have numbers, but if they're recording each of these episodes, because these Linq devices are monitoring the heart 24/7, and they're recording any periods where they feel like the heart's gone too slow, or it's gone too fast, or there's pauses or complex arrhythmias. That really amounts to a lot of data. And any assistance or any facilitation of removing the things that are not important, I think goes a long way in just the normal day-to-day workflow of these clinicians.
How is, just to back up really quick for people who aren't aware from it, I know Linq's been around for about 10 years. It's, this implantable like monitor. Where exactly does it go in the heart?
Yeah, it's been around for actually almost 2 decades, if not longer than that, since our first inception of it. So these things have been designed to facilitate pretty straightforward insertion. And so what typically is done is the left side of the heart, just above the nipple and to the left side of the breastbone, is an area that most clinicians clean off and sterilize. They put a little numbing medicine in that area, and they make a little nick in the skin, which is about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch wide. And then there's a special tool with this device that's already preloaded, and you basically just insert it with just like a plunger kind of approach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it's very straightforward. You literally can do this within minutes, not exaggerating. And the incision or the nick is so small in most cases, if not all cases, you don't even need stitches. You just put a bunch of steri strips over it, and you go home that same day. And so
sounds like this can just be done in a clinician's office then.
That's right.
Super easy, yeah.
And in fact, it is. And I think the procedure has gotten so refined that you don't need to be just a physician to do it. We're hearing a lot of nurse practitioners, these allied health professionals taking part in this process as well, because it's been designed to be easier in terms of implanting this thing.
Yeah, and then the data from it gets transmitted to a transmitter or an app on a mobile phone, then to go up to the cloud to the health providers.
That's exactly right. So there's a wireless transmission that goes to a base station that all these patients get, or other types of communication, and then that gets transmitted to a server where all the information is collected, and then the clinics have access to that because it's their data, and so they can easily pick up on Mr. Smith's information whenever it's needed. The other part of this also is the system is designed to alert physicians and clinicians about critical events. So this data gets downloaded on a periodic basis, and if it sees anything, it'll alert the clinicians to contact the patient as necessary.
Wow. That's great. So it's kind of like your doctor can, that doctor's office can reach out to you and say, like, hey, we're noticing a trend we don't like here. We want you to come here and get checked out more, basically.
That's right.
That's fantastic. So, and that's neat that putting AI to bear on this, could hopefully pinpoint some more trends that otherwise would never be caught. So, I mean, what kind of data do you have at this point about how Linq can basically reduce adverse events, reduce hospitalizations or whatnot?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we're still investigating ways in which we can use Linq to come out with some reduction in hospitalization outcomes and things of that sort. But one sort of application of Linq nowadays has been in detecting atrial fibrillation. Now, atrial fibrillation is the most common arrhythmia that people experience, and it increases as you get older. And there's some other risk factors like high blood pressure and thyroid disease that come with it as well. But what's important to know about atrial fibrillation is that it's strongly associated with strokes. And so in folks who have had atrial fibrillation detected, there's a conversation that's had with the clinician and the patient about whether they need to take preventive measures to reduce that person's risk for stroke. But also in kind, people who've had strokes, currently the clinical practice guidelines would recommend monitoring for the presence of atrial fibrillation. And if you do have that, then enact the appropriate measures like medications or whatnot to reduce the risk for subsequent strokes in the future. So there's direct applications, direct ways in which the Linq can help with patient outcomes.
And lead to ablation procedures, and we're increasingly seeing advances with that technology. I mean, even what Medtronic has with Affera and other pulse field ablation systems. So it's fantastic.
That's right.
I mean, do you think it's going to help? How much is it helping to kind of decode the relationship between, say, like AFib and COPD or sleep apnea, or how is that helping out with that?
That's the hope, right? I mean, there's nothing concrete, but the hope is to try to utilize these medical grade devices implanted in the right underneath the skin to see if there's other opportunities to pick up on signals that might, to your point, decode other conditions. But there's nothing that I've seen so far that's been published on that or anything like that. But hopefully,
it could be something in the future. Yeah.
Something in the future. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's exciting. So at this point, I mean, generally in the United States, if someone's going to a health provider, raising some questions about their heart health, when would health providers in the United States generally talk with them about a Linq monitor being an option?
Yeah, so the current indication for a Linq is really to use it in anyone who's at risk for an arrhythmia. And that's been the general sort of indicated language that the FDA has approved this device to use it on. And so, I think you step back and say, well, when does someone have a risk of these type of arrhythmias? And the most common symptoms people experience are, feeling like you've had palpitations or some, fish flopping in your chest, or some rapid beating sensation in your chest that you don't quite know what it is. And so that's when clinicians start to think about ways in which you would want to do monitoring, because at the end of the day, what the Linq is trying to do is help with establishing what we call a symptom rhythm correlation. When you have symptoms that you think may be related to your heart or some abnormal rhythm, you need to correlate what your heart rhythms are doing at that time, because sometimes it may not even be related to your heart. It may have been a little muscle spasm of some sort in your chest that caused you feeling that way. And so the Linq is great because it provides that 24/7 monitoring, and the battery lasts for more than 4 years.
Wow.
And so you've got the ability to just keep an eye on it, even if your symptoms happen, let's say once every 6 months or once every year, where some of these Holter monitors or these wearables, it's really difficult to be monitoring for that long period of time. These Linq
Right.
devices, you just set it and effectively forget it, and it'll be there to pick up what heart rhythms are happening when you have your next episode of symptoms.
So, I mean, is there enough interest in this idea that, hey, you could be monitoring this for a few years versus, as you said, like a Holter monitor, it's a few weeks, or these wearables now, like such as like iRhythm or Bardy DX or whatever, that's like a few weeks, that you're
Yep.
having this patch on. Like you're saying, like, hey, you could have this like pretty minimally invasive procedure, have this, monitor above your breastbone for up to 4 years, to track things. When are doctors saying like, yes, I want to do that. I want to track this for 4 years.
Yeah, and most clinicians actually view this as the thing they want to do, and sometimes, payers have some restrictions on what they can or cannot do based on, some folks require some type of Holter monitor done first, and then you get the Linq. So there's some nuances about that, but I think
Yeah.
in a ideal world, I think most people would want to just gravitate to this solution because, to your point, you just do it once and you're done for several years.
So this question might be really out there, but is there any potential in the future that something like the Linq could be over the counter? Even, I mean, if it's so minimally invasive, other people would be like, "Yeah, I'll spend." I mean, if it's a few $100s, you know what? I'll spend for this. I want this tracked. Somebody's saying, "I'm getting on my years. I want to get this type of stuff tracked."
I love the question. I mean, the end of the day, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's an intriguing idea
It
because
is. I mean, yeah. Essentially, we're seeing that with CGMs. I mean,
right.
they're going more over the counter. So
I never
it's
say never, Chris.
never say never. So at least for now, it's like, this is like something that health provider has to do with you. It gets covered by insurance. How then do you see like something like Linq interacting with all these consumer devices out there? Because people, somebody might have a Linq, but they'll, still have a smartwatch, and they'll, still
Yeah.
be maybe tracking steps, or maybe they even, have a CGM or whatnot. I mean, how does it interact with all this stuff?
I see them as complementary at this point in time, where
Yeah.
these links are tuned to do a specific task now and to do that one task well. And many of these other consumer grade devices provide complementary information to what, for example, the Linq does not capture. And you may not need that level of sensitivity to capture what your sleep cycles are, for example, or your temperature, your body temperature, things like that. And so, right now, for folks that are very tuned to wanting to understand overall health, wellness, and whatnot, these consumer grade devices are sufficient for that. But when it results in a medical condition or a medical diagnosis that really requires more refined sensitivity and specificity in managing that,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you really need to talk to your doctor about something like a Linq, because that's where these devices are designed to do and perform it.
One interesting thing I'm thinking of is like at MassDevice, we're starting to report about more wearable blood pressure devices coming. I mean, that's been kind of like one of the big holy grails of digital health, is to
Yeah.
not to have and I mean, they aren't, as far as I know, I don't see them listed yet on, the AMA's list of like approved devices, but we're starting to see some movement on them. I mean, how interesting could that be? Like if, people can more rarely track their blood pressure, and then you can, see, like the Linq data, like how their heart's performing at the same time.
I think it's great. I mean, I think it would be very interesting because if you think about high blood pressure or hypertension as a condition, a large portion of people are not controlled. And any effort to try to get more awareness of where their blood pressure is and how often they're in controlled sort of pressures, I think would only help with reducing all of the outcomes that are associated with high blood pressure, like strokes and heart attacks and heart failure and
Right.
that sort. So, there's a ton of interest in this. I think the sky's the limit with regard to how things are going to evolve, especially given the way technology is advancing now. It sort of reminds me of Star Trek. Some of the things that we once thought were
Right.
fantasy are becoming reality, and I wouldn't doubt that this would be something like that for blood pressure monitoring as well.
And at the tricorder level with all this stuff, that'd be
That's right.
great. So, and yeah, it is exciting, like how you could like really like figure out some more things, like, oh, your AFib's better when you have a 10,000 to 20,000 step day, and your blood pressure is more at this level versus like
Right.
these other days, and like there could be some really really cool insights to find. So, well, I love everything we've spoken about here. Like before we run, I mean, one thing I'd really like to just hear is like, I mean, what's next? I mean, what has you excited for the future?
There's a lot of stuff that's going on. I wish I can tell you all of that in the last 30 seconds we've got here. But this is, if you think about electrophysiology as the field, if
Right.
you will, and you think back or you look back in the last 50 or 60 years, there have been epochs of transformational times. And we are, frankly, at an inflection point in the next era of electrophysiology right now. You take a look at, you mentioned this earlier, the adoption of pulse field ablation, the leadless pacemaker technology that we introduced, and is growing in leaps and bounds, and then this AI based diagnostic algorithm process that we're putting into our links. The sky has just been opened up and expanded with regard to things that we can do, questions that we couldn't answer in the past that we can answer now, and then thinking about just the next leap up. And so we're entering another phase, another era of electrophysiology where I think there's just going to be significant advancements made both in technology and the way we care for patients.
That's fantastic. I mean, just one quick example. I mean, how could like the way we're caring for patients now be improved a lot because of these advancements?
Well, I think for one, there's been a lot of talk about throughput in clinics, for example, and it takes forever to get to see a physician, or it takes forever to see a clinician and follow up and whatnot. Some of these AI models are refining themselves to a point where they can probably answer a lot of the things that you could get answered without
Wow.
seeing a patient, physician, if you will. There's also been a lot of conversation about more home-based care. Do you have to go to the hospital for everything you need to get done? Can you
Yeah.
do some of that? Like somebody gets hospitalized nowadays for, let's say, a soft tissue infection and they need to get antibiotics intravenously. Can that actually still happen at home? Or
Yeah.
can that be in a defragmented kind of situation? And all this technology that we're talking about that's evolving is going to provide you the capability of doing that. You don't have to be in the hospital to be monitored. You could potentially be monitored at home. You can get your treatment and your medications at home, all those sort of things. And so there's a lot of excitement around what does healthcare delivery look like in the next couple
Yeah.
of decades. And it looks like people are gravitating more to a defragmented or a fragmented kind of model where you don't necessarily have to go to the hospital for everything you need.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, yeah, I could see like most people, if you had the choice, if they could come and bring the care to you versus like having to eat hospital food. That sounds like
That's right.
sounds like a good plan, that's it. I mean, it sounds like you weren't there at this point, but in the future, like hopefully in maybe even years, like we could be at a point where like if you have a medical grade wearable like a Link and you're wondering, do I need to go to the ER? Do I need to go to the hospital? Like, you could have an AI kind of like give you an idea of like help you game out what you actually need to do.
For sure. It's within the possibilities.
That's fantastic. Well, Dr. Cheng, it was a real pleasure. Like, thanks again for appearing on Device Talks Weekly.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.
All right, well, that is a wrap. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Device Talks Weekly podcast. Thanks so much to our sponsor, Resonetics. Resonetics has been a fantastic, steady, and strong supporter of Device Talks, and we are really grateful. If you don't want to miss a future episode of the Device Talks Weekly podcast or our other podcasts, please subscribe to the Device Talks Podcast Network. Please also make sure you connect with Device Talks on LinkedIn. Follow Device Talks. Follow MassDevice. Connect with me. Connect with Kayleen Brown. Connect with Chris Newmarker. Connect with Jim Hammerand. We'd love to be part of your future MedTech conversations. And don't forget to join us on December 9th at our final Device Talks Tuesdays of the year. You can go to devicetalks.com for more information. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to talking to you next week.